An FPS game is only as good as its protagonist, much in the same way a film can be taken to a high level from its leading actor or actress. Not all protagonists are created equal though, and there are some who are a clear cut above the rest. I think it's important to note too that just because someone can't shoot fireballs out of their bare hands, stop time or leap over tall buildings in a single bound, that it makes them any less awesome. Though for the sake of discussion, I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at what I thought are some of the toughest characters out there, in no real particular order, because that's when you start hurting people's feelings. And if there's one thing you don't want to do on the internet, it's hurt people's feelings.
Nazi scum.
Okay, obvious sarcasm aside, I'm going to mention too that I tried to mainly base this list off the abilities we see for these characters in their respective games. A lot of the inclusions in this list have their own comic books and spin-offs which go into greater detail to the limits of their skills, most of which I've never read. So, to keep everyone on an even playing field, I've eliminated transmedia storytelling from the equation entirely. I also decided to keep this list down to 7 because, I mean, let's face it, we've all got stuff to do, and if I didn't limit the number, we'd all be here arguing over who's the best until we all bled from our assholes. Anyway, Sonny Jim, we didn't come here to fuck spiders, so let's get into it.
Blowing up one of mankind's oldest artworks? Priceless.
At first I felt like I just had to include Master Chief to appease the Halo fanboys, but the more I started thinking about it, the more it seemed like the Chief really did deserve a spot amongst the best of the best. As a result of the Spartan program, Master Chief became one of the most highly experienced and decorated veterans to fight for the UNSC, having a huge impact during the Human Covenant War and ensuring the survival of the human race. Standing over 7 goddamn feet tall in his Spartan armor, Chief was highly skilled with both human and Covenant weaponry, making him effective in a variety of different combat situations. He was a proficient pilot and able to use other vehicles like the Warthog, the Scorpion tank, and the Wraith to great effect. His Spartan armor also grants him access to a powerful regenerating shield, which, though retconned after the first game, basically makes him unstoppable, as long as he's able to avoid taking damage to allow it to recharge. With the further assistance of Cortana and the backup of the UNSC, he can single-handedly turn the tide of any major conflict, and his cool, calm demeanor under pressure prevents emotions from clouding his judgment. Though he has at times ignored direct orders in specific circumstances, it was never at the expense of the greater good. And not to mention too, he had one of the most badass voices of all time.
The Didact has to be stopped. If you won't do that, I will.
Now, I thought long and hard about which build engine protagonist to include on this list, and in the end I decided that Duke Nukem's gonna have to be the victor. Getting his start as a side-scrolling platformer, it wasn't until 1997, when 3D Realms created the industry-defining Duke Nukem 3D, that Duke would etch himself into the halls of FPS greatness. Not only is he a juiced-up womanizer that spouts off constant one-liners, but Duke has single-handedly saved the world from an alien invasion, proving that his bite is indeed as bad as his bark. His weapons are some of the best available in the FPS genre. He can freeze enemies with the freeze thrower, shrink them down and squish them under his mighty boot with the shrinker, or just decimate them with the Devastator or the RPG. Outside of his weapons, he has useful one-off items that can improve his chances of survival, from a medkit that can heal all of his wounds, a hologram to distract enemies, through to most importantly his steroids that temporarily increase his movement speed to the point that he becomes, hands down, the fastest character to make it on this list. Duke's main weakness is that despite all these toys to play with, he's not exactly the most resilient guy around. I mean, he takes massive damage from explosive weapons, so any kind of rocket or grenade that goes off is going to leave him in a really bad state. But his high mobility, improved even more so when he's using a jetpack, makes him a pretty hard target to hit in the first place. Hail to the king indeed. Well, this one was a given, but he still earns his place on the list, and that's the Doomslayer. Prior to 2016, Doomguy would have probably been here instead, but with the introduction of the Slayer in id Software's recent reboot, Doomguy's become somewhat obsolete. I read online somewhere that someone said that Doom isn't a game about the player being stuck in hell with all the demons, it's a game about the demons being stuck in hell with you, and that sums it up pretty well, I think. Killing demons is the Slayer's business, and business is a boomin'. According to what backstory we get, the Slayer is some kind of ancient warrior who's been fighting demons in hell for an eternity to the point that even the most highest ranking demons are afraid of him. God damn. Not only is he more than proficient with all kinds of weapons from the double-barreled shotgun, the chain gun, rocket launcher through to the motherfucking BFG, but in Berserker mode he's able to tear apart enemies with his bare hands. His suit allows increased resistance to damage, the ability to double jump, as well as numerous other upgrades to his abilities to make him more effective in combat. He's a seasoned combatant, probably the most seasoned out of everyone else on this list, and the powers imbued to him from the Seraphim means he's constantly growing stronger and stronger. Now, one could argue that his strength would be diminished if he wasn't fighting demons, as that's the sole source of his inner rage, but even still, the Slayer is a force to be reckoned with. Whether or not you support the fan theories that he's actually the original Doom guy is redundant. He's still badass personified. Rip and tear Sonny Jim until it is done. When Jackie Estacado came into contact with the darkness, it gave him limitless powers and abilities, including demon armor, superhuman strength and speed, a healing factor, and shapeshifting, among many others. Now, comparing the video game version of Jackie and the comic book version, however, is really two separate things, and I think if we're going to look at the comic book version, I'd say Jackie would probably come out on top against everyone else on this list like 99% of the time. Having said that though, even his video game adaptation is pretty damn powerful.
You are nothing but my puppet.
In the first and second game, Jackie's able to use his tendrils to great effect, impaling enemies, picking them up and throwing them around, or simply ripping them to pieces. Jackie can also summon black holes, destroying everything that happens to get sucked into them, and he also has the power to summon darklings to do his bidding. On top of all of that, Jackie is highly proficient with all kinds of weaponry, from pistols, submachine guns, through to shotguns and assault rifles due to his background as a mafia hitman. His one major weakness though is that the moment he's in any kind of light, his darkness powers are diminished strongly, if not depleted entirely, making him practically human during this period. However, even if Jackie sustains the kind of damage that would kill a normal person, the darkness is still able to heal him over time, making him essentially unstoppable. And I'd also pity the fools that mess with his friends and family. Now, if there's one guy you don't want to piss off, it's Corvo Atano. Selflessly devoted to the Empress of Dunwall, he was framed for her murder and sent to prison for 6 months, before his release by a group of loyalists led him to come into contact with the mysterious outsider.
For this I have chosen you, and drawn you into the void.
Already more than skilled in stealth and combat, when the outsider granted Corvo the outsider's mark, he then had access to numerous supernatural abilities, making him an unstoppable agent of vengeance. With the outsider's mark, he could move faster, jump higher, sustain more damage, and also summon rats to attack his enemies, teleport short distances, possess others, and even stop time. Corvo's deadly with a sword, able to take on multiple opponents with ease, but also with pistols, crossbows, and all manner of gadgets and trinkets. The only downside to all of Corvo's abilities is that he requires mana to use them, and as mana is a finite resource, it is possible that over time he would render himself incapable of using these powers if his mana source is depleted. But when fully stocked, Corvo is a force to be reckoned with, and his top stime ability alone could end a fight before it had even started. He's also voiced by my boy, Stephen Garrett Russell, and that alone means he's earned his spot on this list. Daniel Garner was just your average Joe, living out his meaningless life with his wife Catherine before that fateful night when he took his eyes off the road like an idiot and killed both of them in a head-on car crash. Instead of being sent to heaven, Daniel remained in limbo and worked as an agent for the angel Samael, tasked with killing 4 of Lucifer's lieutenants. Now, goddamn, that alone is pretty badass. For starters, Daniel has access to some pretty devastating weaponry, including a shotgun that can turn enemies into blocks of ice, allowing Daniel to shatter them with a single blast. And then he's got the downright awesome chain gun and rocket launcher combo, hands down one of the most effective weapons in any FPS game. Aside from that, he can use the black tarot cards to buff his abilities, giving him increased resistance to damage, slowing down time, invulnerability, health regeneration, among many others. The real showstopper, however, is his demon morph, where upon collecting 100 souls of fallen enemies, he can temporarily become literally unstoppable, able to destroy and rip apart any enemy with a single hit, including the aforementioned lieutenants. The only real weakness to all of this is that the tarot cards have a limited usage and the demon morph ability has to be built up over time. But when these abilities are in play, Daniel is hands down one of the toughest characters on this list. Probably one of the lesser known protagonists on this list is Malachi from Cyclone Studios' 1999 game Requiem Avenging Angel. In this game, Malachi is a fallen angel who heads to Earth to defeat another angel, Lilith, whose influence has resulted in the world falling into chaos, with a totalitarian regime controlling the population and the threat of Armageddon imminent. As a fallen angel, Malachi is human in the sense that he doesn't have all that much speed or durability and can be killed by normal means. But the various angelic powers he has access to differentiate him from his opponents and really give him the upper hand. With names derived from Bible quotes, these powers include projectiles like fireballs and lightning, but he can also summon locusts to attack enemies over time. He can cause an enemy's blood to boil, making them explode from the inside out, and eventually he is granted the ability to turn enemies into salt, destroying them pretty much instantly. Aside from that, he can heal himself, he can slow down time, he can possess other people, and even bring someone back from the dead to do his bidding. Whilst his weapons might not be the best, he really only ever gets to use archetypal weapons like machine guns and shotguns. His angelic powers really put him into another league. And if only for the ability to turn someone into a goddamn salt shaker did I include him on this list. And that's it for my list. I'm sure there's loads of people who agree or disagree with those I included, and I'm sure there's other characters I probably could have included as well. Honourable mentions go to Sirius Sam, Joshua Fireseed from Turok 2, and Jack and Subject Delta from Bioshock 1 and 2. If you can think of someone that I missed or feel like being a pedantic prick and correcting me on a simple mistake I made in the video, then feel free to do it in the comments section below. Also, if you like this style of video and would like to see more, then make a comment below with your suggestion. Anyway, thanks for watching.